Yellowstone Volcano Eruption Death Zone. Millions stranded as volcano wipes out the U.S. Yellowstone volcano could one day wipe out large swaths of the U.S. and blanket the country in a sea of thick volcanic ash. This is what scientists have gravely warned about ahead of a volcano eruption. Yellowstone volcano eruption simulations predict no one in the United States would be safe from feeling the effects of that cataclysm. The biggest cause for concern outside of Yellowstone's immediate vicinity is the hazardous downfall of the volcanic ash. Clues hidden in the past volcano eruptions from Yellowstone, a supervolcano, the biggest in the world, from hundreds of thousands of years ago, paint an incredibly hopeless future. Geological evidence found buried in the ground suggests the extent of Yellowstone's ash emissions would spread from one coast of the United States to the other. Experts in the U.S. Federal Emergency Management Agency, FEMA, warned in 2015 the resulting damage would amount to staggering sums of money lost. Senior scientists at FEMA said, in terms of direct economic damage, a $3 trillion number is reasonably accurate for this event. It's about 20% of our U.S. gross domestic product. FEMA experts drafted 6 plausible ash fallout zones across the U.S. to map out the far-reaching effects of Yellowstone's spewing ash. It's from one coast to the other. It even encompasses Canada, the prairie states. Zone 1 would extend up to 80 kilometers from the eruption. Some 70,000 people found in this area impact. Unfortunately, direct effects of the eruption are not survivable. Further out from Zone 1, the survivability prospects begin to increase, but local wildlife and agriculture would suffer irreparable losses for years to come. Ash fallout would damage building integrity as well, obstructing waterways and even interfere with electronic communications. According to FEMA, even in Zone 6, which extends more than 800 kilometers away from the mega blast, Yellowstone's ash would still have devastating effects. Buildings would likely suffer minor damage in the fallout, cars would lose traction on roads, and the ensuing lack of food and communication would collapse livestock production. Estimated ash fallout in Zone 6 between 1 and 6 centimeters. Thankfully, there's absolutely no indication Yellowstone Supervolcano is anywhere near blowing up. Jacob Lowenstein, a research geologist at USGS, said Yellowstone eruption in our lifetime is an unlikely scenario. The expert said it's not impossible to rule out, but it's a remote possibility. Warning, experts fear Yellowstone may be about to blow. They fear that a major eruption at Yellowstone is imminent as an ongoing cluster of earthquakes continue to erupt underneath this supervolcano, the biggest in the world. The earthquake count is up to a record number of 2,357 since June, with the largest having a magnitude of 4.4. Despite this, the USGS scientists are assuring the public that the swarm of earthquakes doesn't necessarily mean an eruption. These same scientists said exactly the same thing 1 month before St. Helens erupted in 1980. Of course, that's expected because they don't want to panic people. Typically, the US government are advised to warn the public about an imminent eruption until it is only a week away. Activist Post reports when the type of earthquakes occurring in Yellowstone deviates from the standard, it could mean that an eruption is forthcoming. A swarm of earthquakes is rather normal for Yellowstone, but the number of quakes is approaching a new record. The current swarm is approaching a record set in 1985, when 3 months brought over 3,000 quakes. In 2010, A swarm brought over 2,000 quakes over a month. Scientists still say to not worry too much. The threat of an eruption is still very slim, they say. The Epoch Times reports, the current situation does not present too much of an eruption threat. The geological pressure would have to be sizable for anything to occur. Yellowstone has had dozens of these sorts of earthquake swarms in the last 150 years it's been visited. The last volcanic eruption within the caldera was 70,000 years ago. For magma to reach the surface, a new vent needs to be created, which requires a lot of intense geological activity. This is what Jacob Lowenstern, one of the scientists managing Yellowstone Volcano Observatory. Lowenstern went on to say that the odds are very high that Yellowstone will go centuries without an eruption, and that if one does occur, it will be minor. Should these earthquakes lead to an eruption, scientists think it would not be of such consequence. Quote, if Yellowstone erupts, it's most likely to be a lava flow, as occurred in nearly all the 80 eruptions since the last super eruption 640,000 years ago. A lava flow would be a big deal at Yellowstone, but would have very little regional or continental effect, end quote. That's what Lowenstern explained. Now, one of my past supervolcano Yellowstone videos, we did reveal that the U.S. government in 2014 entered into a 10-year contract with four foreign countries of the southern hemisphere to accept displaced American refugees escaping from the Yellowstone eruption. And they paid, I think it was about $10 billion. Now that is for a 10-year period, so come 2024 they have to re-enter a new agreement. They get paid that money whether or not Yellowstone is erupts or not. These countries offered to accept Americans displaced because of Yellowstone supervolcano eruption. Just as a matter of reference, they are so worried that they went into an agreement with four foreign countries of the southern hemisphere, because northern hemisphere obviously would be affected by Yellowstone's supervolcano's ash cloud and therefore unlivable. This is by Sean Adel-Tabatabai on News Punch. This happens if Yellowstone supervolcano blows, and it's terrifying. Yellowstone National Park, one of the most famous and albeit highly raved about the national park in the entire world. It is an attraction that many have claimed that one should at least visit once in their lifetimes. Yellowstone supervolcano, the pride of North America. Yellowstone National Park spreads across 3 states. As testament to its ginormous land area, the herd of bison, and a unique and peculiar range of animals and vegetation that live there. One of the most famous hotspots in the world, with its renowned geysers that have been around for thousands of years. But Yellowstone National Park shows no signs of slowing down. Or is it? The volcano erupts with a near clockwork cycle of every 600,000 years. The last eruption was more than 640,000 years ago. We are overdue for an annihilation, say the experts. Earthquakes are reported to be a norm at Yellowstone these past few months, sparking fear and concern about the evil that lies within Yellowstone's vast plains that has remained dormant for 70,000 years. However, the earthquakes show no sign of stopping anytime soon. They've had earthquake swarms. Since June the 12th, they have been frequent and increasingly stronger in magnitude, with a 4.0 magnitude earthquake that happened on the 23rd of June. There has been a record of over 400 earthquakes since June 12th, causing much worry and fear. In a press release by scientists from the University of Utah, who have been keeping track of the changes around Yellowstone, said, quote, "The epicenter of the shock was located in Yellowstone National Park, 8 miles northeast of the town of West Yellowstone, Montana. The earthquake was reportedly felt in the towns of West Yellowstone and Gardiner, Montana, in Yellowstone National Park, and elsewhere in the surrounding region. However, this fear has been accounted for, though just not shortly. Experts at the U.S. Geological Survey, the USGS, has put the odds of the volcano erupting this year at 1 in 730,000. Though the chances are so slim, natural disasters have taken many experts by surprise an unprecedented number of times. Thus, measures are still going on to be taken to ensure the safety of residents and the food supply around the national park. America is in safe hands of these experts who have devoted their lives to recording the earthquakes that surround Yellowstone. One's mind can be put to ease with them around, for sure. But what would an eruption of the Yellowstone Supervolcano look like? On Sunday, the worst earthquake in about 30 years rattled the Yellowstone Supervolcano. Overall, there have been at least 25 significant earthquakes at Yellowstone National Park since Thursday, but it is the 4.8 earthquake that has many observers extremely worried. Could such a large earthquake be a sign that the Yellowstone Supervolcano is starting to roar to life after all this time? And if it does erupt, what would that mean for the rest of the country? As you'll see below, in a full-blown eruption at Yellowstone would be absolutely catastrophic. It's estimated that such an eruption could drop and dump a 10-foot deep layer of volcanic ash up to 1,000 miles away and render much of the nation's land uninhabitable for years to come. In essence, it would instantly bring the United States to its knees. It's true that it is normal for Yellowstone to experience up to 3,000 earthquakes a year, but most of those earthquakes are extremely small and nothing to worry about. But the 4.8 earthquake that struck on Sunday is definitely raising eyebrows, especially considering what else has been going on at Yellowstone lately. A University of Utah release said that the quake area had experienced a ground uplift since August, and that seismicity in the general region of the uplift has been elevated for several months. I don't know about you, but the fact that the largest volcano in the United States, a supervolcano, by far has been experiencing ground uplift is not comforting to me. And there have been reports of strange animal behavior around Yellowstone as well. For example, the YouTube video here in undisclosed TV I'll leave below for you. The YouTube video of numerous bison literally running away from Yellowstone has gone viral. That's a bad sign. That means that they know something is coming. That video was captured during the month of March, well before the 4.8 earthquake happened. It could be possible that those bison sensed that something was coming. The danger posed by Yellowstone should not be underestimated. Late last year, a new study into the enormous supervolcano found the underground magma chamber to be 2.5 times larger than previously thought, a cavern spanning some 90 kilometers by 30 kilometers and capable of holding 300 billion cubic kilometers of molten rock. If the sleeping giant of Yellowstone were to wake, the outflow of lava, ash, and smoke would devastate the United States and affect the entire world. A full-blown eruption at Yellowstone would be unlike anything that any of us have ever seen before. The YouTube video attempts to portray what would happen to areas within a few hundred miles of Yellowstone. But of course, the devastation would not just be limited to the northwest part of the country. The following are some facts, more facts about Yellowstone, compiled from a previous article. Number 1. A full-scale eruption of Yellowstone could be up to 1,000 times more powerful than the eruption of Mount St. Helens that took place in 1980. 1,000 times more powerful. Number 2. A full-scale eruption of Yellowstone would spew volcanic ash 25 miles up into the air. Number 3. The next eruption of Yellowstone seems to be getting closer with each passing year. Since 2004, some areas of Yellowstone National Park have risen by as much as 10 inches. Number 4. There are approximately 3,000 earthquakes in the Yellowstone area every single year. Number 5. In the event of a full-scale eruption of Yellowstone, virtually the entire northwest United States will be completely destroyed. Number 6. A massive eruption of Yellowstone would mean that just about everything within a 100-mile radius of Yellowstone would be immediately killed within a few seconds. Number 7, a full-scale eruption of Yellowstone could also potentially dump a layer of volcanic ash that is at least 10 feet deep up to 1,000 miles away. Number 8, a full-scale eruption of Yellowstone would cover virtually the entire Midwest United States with volcanic ash. Food production in America would be almost totally wiped out. Number 9, the volcanic winter that a massive Yellowstone eruption would cause would radically cool the planet. Some scientists believe that global temperatures would decline by up to 20 degrees. Number 10, America would never be the same again after a massive Yellowstone eruption. Some scientists believe that a full eruption by Yellowstone would render 2/3 of the United States completely uninhabitable. Number 11. Scientists tell us that it is not a matter of if Yellowstone will erupt, but rather when the next inevitable eruption will take place. So in essence, a Yellowstone eruption would be on the same level as a Carrington event. Either one would fundamentally change life in the United States in a single day. Personally, I certainly hope that we do not see an eruption at Yellowstone anytime soon, and actually I'm much more concerned about the possibility of an eruption at other volcanoes in the northwest, such as Mount Hood and Mount Rainier. But if the ground keeps rising rapidly at Yellowstone, and earthquakes like the one that struck on Sunday keep on happening, then it would be very foolish for us to ignore the warning signs. And of course, you shouldn't expect the government to warn you about the potential threat of Yellowstone eruption until the very last moment. Generally speaking, the government is much more concerned about keeping people calm than it is about telling us the truth. We seem to have moved into a time of increased seismic activity all over the North and South America. In such an environment, it would not be wise to say that an eruption at Yellowstone cannot happen. The truth is that an eruption at Yellowstone could happen at any moment. So let's just hope that we are all out of the way when it does happen. This is by Via the Truth Wins, Michael Snyder, former Washington, D.C. attorney, who now publishes The Truth. His new thriller entitled The Beginning of the End is now available on Amazon. This is an article by Lucas Magnus on Disclosed TV.